Welcome back to the Daddyless Daughters Podcast in partnership with Solace Womens Aid. I go by the name of Aliyah Ali, and today I'm joined by Ebony.
Hello.
How are you feeling today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time, your presence, and you just coming to share some wisdom on the platform. I think we're going to have a great conversation. As you guys know, the theme is dirty water, as I say every episode, and us exploring the patterns that we saw in our household and how that impacted how we went on to kind of build healthy relationships. I think Ebony's story is very important because it represents a lot of daddyless daughters who had a father who, wanted to be present, but for some reason or another, the contact wasn't as frequent as it should have been. And yeah, he had to kind of figure out how to fight for his rights to be in you and your siblings' lives, essentially. And I think it's really important because, we're not a men are trash movement. We're saying like we need our fathers to show up for us. And we're having these conversations because we want to prevent other girls from having to go out there and freestyle from a young age and figure out what a healthy relationship is. So, gonna get into it. And my first question for you today is where does your daddyless daughter journey begin?
So my daddyless daughter journey begins from when my parents got a divorce. My mum kicked my dad out. And from then, that is when I think it began, because I went from being a daddy's girl, getting all the attention from my dad, getting everything I wanted from him. I was spoiled. And then when he left, it's like everything went. So, yeah.
And you was his like one and only daughter?
I was his daughter for 6 years, and then my brother came, my little brother
Okay.
came. When my brother was only a few months, that's when he was ejected from the house. So, yeah.
And how old was you when he left?
Around 6.
6 years
6
old.
plus.
So would you say that was like the first age that you've kind of started to feel a void, like something's missing now that he's gone? And how do you replace that?
Definitely. I think definitely that was the time that I realized that something was definitely missing. At that point, it was because I was underage, so there was nothing I could do to replace that void at that point. Not being able to see him, because my mum, they went through a custody battle because my dad took my mum to court just so that he could see us. At that point, my mum didn't want him to see me and my brother and I. And there wasn't much that we could do because we were underage. We just had to show up to, we had social services, family, I can't remember what they called it then, family support.
Family liaison.
Yeah, family liaison. Yeah, they would come and then they would like assess us and ask us questions and just be monitoring things in our lives.
And there wasn't any like abuse in your household or any sort of like major reason where like you guys are at a threat if you continue to spend time with this man. There was none of that.
It wasn't physical abuse. It was more of that my parents went through a nasty custody. So when my mum filed for divorce, that was then my dad now tried to take her to court. He wasn't doing things that she wanted him to do. So providing the amount of money that she wanted him to give. So that also had an effect. And that, so because she wasn't getting what she wanted from my dad, she now decided that the best thing is to stop him from seeing us. That is when he went to go and file for custody. Not full custody, he just wanted to see us. Like, he just wanted to remain in our lives.
Yeah, and have some structure behind that as well. Because it's difficult, especially when women decide, like, based off of however they feel, or like you're saying, he's not giving as much money or showing up how the mum says that he should show up, then it's like you're useless, you're not no good for nothing. So it's important for, I guess, fathers to figure out how are they going to get that structure or that regular contact with their children once they leave the household. And I think also a pattern that I've noticed, the more that I'm exploring this daddyless daughter thing, right, is there are a strong, big group of women who also, because of the relationship that they had with their father, they showed up in their lives as a provider, money, and they wasn't really emotionally present. Now, as they've gone on to form relationships, it's very transactional. It's very much about, can you provide? What type of money can you provide for me and my family? And it becomes very fixated on that. And that's not necessarily healthy as well. Did that ever affect the way that you saw relationships and money?
It didn't affect me. I did not think that I need to be the type that if a man can't give me money, I shouldn't let him to the like that. I will say it affected me in the way I didn't want to be like that. That's the way it affected me. I didn't look at it like, oh, because my mum was being like that, I should be like that. That's one of the main things. So as I'm a mother of 3 now, I wouldn't, if there was a situation where the father of my children couldn't provide, I wouldn't say, oh, because you can't give me money, you can't see the child. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would not.
Yeah.
It's not just about money. It's also about the time and stuff. So, yeah.
And when you guys were like going through this custody battle and then all these professionals get involved and whatever, what type of internal conflicts did it give you? Did it make you feel like, oh, who should I be loyal to? Or like you was in the middle of it?
Definitely. Because I was the first girl, I was the first child, and I also looked like my dad. So I was like a constant reminder to my mom, whenever she gets court letters, or it was a solicitor will call her or something, she used to cuss me a lot. And she would take everything out on me. What I remember now, it's like I was in the middle. And it's like, who do you choose? Who do you stay loyal to? And for me, I never had any person, between my dad and I, from what I remember, he didn't treat me bad. So it's like, I couldn't understand why. Why couldn't he see us? Why couldn't he take us to his house? Why couldn't we go out with him? Why couldn't we do these things with him? I don't think it's just about the fact that he couldn't provide with the money. I think there were other things as well. And like, as I'm a mom now, I can see, sometimes when you have an argument with your partner, you're angry about certain things. So maybe out of anger, that's why she decided to stop him from seeing us. And him, out of spite, decided to take. I don't think it's just solely out of spite that he took her to court to see us, because apparently those were some of the things she was saying when I get cussed as well. But yeah, that conflict of who to choose and who do you go with, her or him, and that was a lot to deal with. It was.
Did you ever feel like when you was spending time with him during this period, did you ever feel like you was betraying her, or like a sense of like shame, or like we shouldn't be like you shouldn't be with your dad, or you shouldn't be spending time with him, or it felt wrong?
Yes, I felt like that. Especially there was a time during the whole court process when we were waiting for the decisions. I'm gonna be honest. In secondary school, year 7 or year 8, I remember he would come after school this was behind my mum, behind the courts. And he will come and, give me money or buy me. Like, if I said I needed something new, then he will buy it for me or give me the money for it. He even took my friends he bought us ice cream, he took us McDonald's, this kind of thing. So it was even confusing because, like, my mum's telling me that this man is this, he's that, bashing him. But from my earliest childhood memories, I don't remember him being bad to me. He's coming to meet me after school and he's doing nice things for me and my friends. So how is this man so bad? So I did feel like I was betraying her because, what we were doing, we were seeing behind her back. But I wanted to see him. Like, that was my dad. That was my love. Like, I loved him so much. So, yeah, at times, I'm sure I did betray her, but not in the way that she would think. I never said bad things about my mum to him, and and if he did say, I don't think my dad really said any bad things about my mum, but if he implied anything, I would say, no, that's not how it is. Like my mum did try for us. Like she was a hardworking woman who had jobs constantly trying to keep the mortgage over her head because when my dad left, she bought the house, you know. And then my mum thought I betrayed her.
Yeah.
Because on one occasion she found out. My dad was very soft and always letting me do what I want. So one time when I was like in year 9, I managed to, back then it was, there was like a trend of everyone getting piercings. Nose piercing, belly button, tongue and stuff. And a lot my friends were getting their piercings and they were allowed to get their belly buttons. I had asked my mum and she said no. Then I knew like my dad would. I just knew that he would. Back then they asked, you had to have someone that's over 18 to come with you. And I just thought, this is the perfect opportunity. Let me ask him. So I asked him and he came.
Did it?
It was wrong of him. I mean, he didn't really know the full extent. Like he didn't know, I don't think he knew the full extent of how
what?
can you take a underage, under 16.
But you're his child though. He has to, if he has that responsibility to make that decision as well.
Yeah, he does.
The same way a mum would. Like why couldn't he make that decision and take you to do it?
That's true. I don't think he did enough research to know what it entailed. So he did. I'm there trying to hide it. Like,
where did you get pierced?
At my belly button.
Okay.
He allowed me. We did it. So I got home, and I come home. I didn't let her. Like I had to hide it for her for a few days, but she had her niece who had come, and her niece. I didn't know she was a snake. I trusted her because she wasn't old. She was maybe 4 or 5 years older than me. So I trusted her like a big sister that I never had. And that was the worst thing I did because my mum found out. And her niece had told her everything. Had told her that it was I stupidly told her that my dad followed me there. I shouldn't have told her. So that was my mum. I remember to this day the beating that I got.
Wow.
The beating that I got because of my dad took me. Like I will never forget.
Yeah.
And he was buying me phone credit behind, And so when she she doesn't know till this day that he used to come often.
Okay.
To come and see me outside of school or take me to Nighttown in central London, buy a school bag and stuff. I don't mind telling her now, of course, but that was the only betrayal thing.
Yeah. And but those type of experiences, like that leaves an imprint in your mind. Like, and I was speaking about this and with the last conversation that we had on the podcast in terms of like how quick our parents were to be physical with us and beat us for certain things that we could have just had a conversation about. But that's the dirty water. That's what we're exploring. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, how come that was our norm and that was okay? That for them to react to situations like that
in such a way,
like, and it's a bit abusive, but that's a whole nother conversation, I guess, that we all have to have individually with our parents. So after he left the household, did she bring any other boyfriends into the house? Like, what was then? What next did you see in terms of what a relationship is?
Yeah, when he left the house, I can't really remember exactly how soon after or the years. But yeah, she attempted to move on with a new partner. There was domestic abuse.
From what age did that start? Do you remember?
I don't remember the actual age, but it will be a few years after my dad left. So from young. So after my dad left, the idea of a relationship that I saw was toxicity. It was a domestic abuse situation, constantly calling police for her and stuff. And
at that point, did you realize, or was you too young to realize that, like, your needs are not being met? Like, now the roles reverse, right? Because if you're having to call the police, you're having to safeguard the house situation as a child. It's like you're actually doing a lot of parenting yourself, or you're doing what the adults around you should be doing. They should be making sure that you're safe, actually, not the other way around. Did you realize that at that age, or did you just start to get angry and confused?
At that particular time, I didn't understand. I didn't understand that it was you know, the parents' responsibility. I was confused at that point. I didn't really understand what was going on. I just thought I wanted my dad back. Who's this man? You know, I'm witnessing all this stuff. Violence. It was just the violence and just being scared. To be honest, I was more scared. That was what I was more scared, to be honest. I wasn't thinking about who is supposed to be doing the safeguarding or anything. I was just scared, like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
You know, because she did have to go to hospital on a few occasions for some things, you know? So I was just thinking, what's next? At that point, I was young. It's years after that, when that partner had gone, that partner went, she now wanted to move on. She sold that house where we were living in Tottenham, bought a new house. She wanted to get away from all the bad things that's happened in that household.
Yeah, yeah.
So she sold that house and bought a new house in Barking, which was this was a bit traumatizing for me because this was a whole new environment. Tottenham was more ethnic and diverse. I had family in Hackney, so Tottenham and Hackney is where I grew up more in my childhood. She now decided, she just made an irrational decision by just thinking, like, she didn't, I mean, I was a child, she's an adult anyway, she's going to get the last say, but she didn't even say to my brother and I, like, we may be moving, and we may be moving to a whole new city, so we will move from North London to East London / Essex. That conversation was not, it was just drastic. You know, I understand now that now I'm older, I know what she was trying to do. She was trying to get away from all that, the problems and stuff. She didn't communicate that. So she now moved us to a place where we weren't familiar with people, with anyone.
Yeah.
No support network, no family, no friends. It was not diverse. So we was like, I think there was 2 black people. So our family and another black household on the street, the whole street, coming from where it was mixed. So things like that as well just kind of irritated me with her.
Of course, and layers.
And then I was already comfortable in my secondary school in North London. I was fine. I had my friends. I was all right. Then so in year 9, it was too far for me to be travelling from Barking all the way to North. So I had to move school. Moving school was hell because now it was me and one other black girl that were the only black girls and there was a bit of racism that we had to face, which my mum didn't even think of or support us with. And I just had to be strong from there. Yeah. So she had a new partner.
Okay.
That partner gave me hell because he was also abusive.
Wow.
So that abusive situation just made me sick. And I just used to that's when I started, when I noticed that my mum's not doing anything about this. Yeah. She's not protecting me. Yeah. I can't see my dad. I think at that point, the courts had allowed us for maybe 6 hours on the Saturday. It was, so how the court did it was gradual to see my dad. So I think one time we started off with 2 hours supervised visits.
Supervised?
Yeah, we started off with supervised visits in a public place, McDonald's. Then it increases after a time. So from 2 hours, you'll have like 4 hours, 4 hours to 6 hours. And then they will now trust him for us. We can go to his house for a Saturday. We can go to his house for 6 hours. Then it increased to weekends. So at this point, I don't think we had graduated to weekends yet.
Okay.
So he was still not, I didn't have a consistent relationship with my dad during this time. Yeah. So I was just fed up. And I was still on this calling police thing because the domestic abuse, the physical abuse was there. And then I just started rebelling, running away from home.
What age did that start?
14.
Okay.
I'm so dumb because I made a mistake. I ran away from home, but I went to school.
Oh, that's a mistake that we all make, though.
So they found me in school, and then she came. She started crying. Why did you run away? So I had to go back. You know, I didn't even know where I was going to run. I mean, I was going to stay at a friend's house or whatever that was. But yeah, and then I now started knowing the people in the new area that I had moved to, and that's when I met That's where I met my first love.
Okay. Just to go back to what you're saying in terms of like the moving areas, I've really related to that because when my mum's domestic violence relationship split up, I remember when Solace got involved because they had to flee to a refuge, and they sat me down and they gave me the option to go with her or go and live with my dad. And although I didn't have a relationship with my dad, the unknown, I was more open to go into my dad and the unknown than to go with them because I didn't want that feeling of being taken out of the one thing that I was familiar with, which was my area, the surroundings, the people that I knew or whatever, and go with this woman. And I didn't necessarily, I'm not saying it's her fault why she ended up in that abusive situation, but one thing I learned from a very young age is not to trust adults and the decisions that they make. They're very unreliable, untrustworthy. And that was a message that was very loud. So I didn't really trust her enough to go with her. So I've never heard the other side of that story where you've had to flee with your mum, essentially, and the impact that that's going to have. After you guys, after you started running away and stuff, and then you met the first love, would you say that was the first time that you felt safe, or that was your first safe place?
Definitely. That was the first time I felt safe and the first time I felt certain needs were being met because he was even though he was young as well, he was looking after me, doing things that if my dad would be there, like he was protecting me as well. We spent a lot of time together and he, I felt safe around him, definitely. That was my safe space.
And at this age, was you aware of your needs and the fact that you've got voids?
No. I was 15. I wasn't aware that I hadn't at that stage. I was not reflective. So I didn't really know how deep it was, and I didn't even know that my mum's not meeting my needs. To be honest, I just thought she's putting a man before me at that point, and she's not listening to me. He was giving me the attention that she was supposed to be giving me, and
Yeah. What from that age? What else did you start getting involved in that was like filling the voids?
At that age, 15. So at that age, I'm trying to remember. So 15, 16, always. So after school, instead of me coming home straight, then that's when I will be going to spend time at his house. I remember I'm meant to be revising for my GCSEs and I'll be at his house. But I did bring I remember bringing my art book. I was doing it at his house. We spent a lot of, at that point of my life, I wasn't out there at that point. I was just mostly with him. Unfortunately, around 17, he went away. He had gotten in trouble with the law and he had gone away. I was alone then. Well, I felt alone. Also, I left the house at 16 because I got, at the time, we had connections. I don't know if you know what connections, but in East
I remember
London,
connections.
Yeah, we had connection. I had confided in one of them, the counsellor there, that I'm not happy at home. There's domestic abuse going on and I'm not happy and my mum is not listening to me. So they advised me. They said, when you're 16, do you know that you can get your own place? You can move out when you're 16. And then, so I was confused. I didn't know whether I want to go to live with my dad. My dad was living in Broadwell Farm Estate. I didn't know if I wanted to go and live there. So, and I had, with this, my first love in the relationship, I was still enjoying the attention and what the needs that he was meeting for me. So I just thought, okay, let me get a place and then he could be with me as well. So I had, by 16, I had left my mum's house totally.
How did she react to that?
She wasn't happy.
Okay.
She actually still wanted me in the house. It's not, normally other people, their parents kick them out and stuff. But no, my mum actually still wanted me in the house. I left the house, because I wasn't happy with what was going on in the household. So, yeah, 15, 16, 17, the filling of the voids was just with him. We were just doing everything together. Like, we will spend time together. We will be going out together. It was just us.
Yeah.
Occasionally with his friends and my friends. Now, 17 is when he went away because he got in trouble with the law. Then that's when I felt alone again. I started mixing with people in the area. I didn't really go back to my roots of Tottenham anymore. I had like kind of had a disconnect with my friends in Tottenham and Hackney. It was more of now I had made new friends, new relationships, new friendships in Barking and Dagenham, neighbouring areas, Newham, Stratford. So I was going out a lot, going to parties, going clubbing, just the raving, the not coming home, staying at people's houses for long, engaging in things, So from then, 18, met a few people who were... so the people that I met, so we will call it now as gang grooming kind of thing.
Yeah.
They were in gangs. They were getting up to things like fraudulent activities and other sort of crimes, and which I got involved in a few things as well.
Yeah.
And then I met people and whatever, toxic people. I then became pregnant at 18. I got pregnant at 18. I had the child at 19. So my mum, of course, was not happy with that because I was meant to be in uni. I did start uni. At that time, I wasn't ready for university mentally. It was more of my mum putting pressure on me. You need to go to uni. You need to be a graduate. All her friends' children, like comparing me to her friends' children and things like that. I wasn't ready mentally. So I stopped going to lectures, got pregnant, and definitely I had the baby. I couldn't concentrate.
Yeah.
So uni was on hold. Had the child 19. So it was just only maybe a few months after I had the child, I realised.
Did you, when you found out you was pregnant at that age and kind of coming from all your experiences as well, did you ever think like, how am I going to do this? Or like, what type of place did that take you to mentally and emotionally, especially feeling like you don't have that support foundation, you know what I'm saying, to really, what they would deem for somebody to succeed at motherhood with, like when you feel like you don't have that, and then the only sense of safety that you felt was taken away from you. What did that feel like?
When I had the child, or
when you found out, like
when I found out I was pregnant?
the moment that you found out.
Oh no! When I found out, I was confused. And I was a bit scared. But the type of person I am, I don't give up easily. Like, I'm not a quitter. So yes, I was scared. I didn't know what to. I didn't know who was going to help me. I knew automatically my mum was going to be disappointed. And I knew, because my mum was always strict, so I knew that. But I didn't know she wasn't going to support me fully, and especially mentally. To be honest, at that point, I didn't have any mental health support. I had to be strong on my own. I was confused, I was scared. But there was light at the end of the tunnel. I just said, I'm just going to do this. I'm also the type of person that I'm spontaneous. I just run with it. When problems come or when issues come, back then I'll be like, go with the flow kind of thing. So it was more of a go with the flow and let's just see how this plans out. I don't think I was mature enough mentally to know how it would be or know how hard it would be.
Right.
It was after I had the child, I now realised that this is not a joke.
What happened after you had the child?
After I had the child, I was stressed. I was stressed. My mum didn't talk to me. I told her quite late, I think 7 months. I told my cousin to tell her, because obviously she was already angry with me because I had left the house. So we weren't really on talking terms like that. So she found out late, and at the point that she found out, she didn't really want nothing to do with me. Someone had begged, like older family members had begged her. So the day she found out that I had given birth is when she had calmed down a bit and now came to the hospital and said we can go with her. Me and the child could go with her home, which was a shock. And it was stressful because even when I got to, I think the day after, she was going on at me. Like, she was just like, wow, you know, I don't remember the exact words, but the situation had happened, and instead of her to be supportive and move on and let's see how we can move on from this, I was getting a lecture. I was getting verbally, I was just, oh, it's your dad's fault because he spoiled you from young. You know, the blame game.
Yeah.
My dad was getting blamed. I was getting blamed. And that's not what I needed. I just had a child, you know, postnatal depression. At the time, I didn't know it was postnatal depression. But when I was old enough to know what postnatal depression was, I said, wow, some of these symptoms, I was actually going through this during that time.
Yeah, what were the symptoms of that type of depression?
Being emotional all the time, tearful. You just start thinking, and then you get negative thoughts and just start thinking like maybe you can't. Negative thoughts like just being always down. That wasn't me. I'm more of an optimistic person and a positive person that just likes to get the job done and just go. So I started feeling feeling more reserved and more laid back with things, and just being tearful. And I was just stressed. But one of the symptoms of postnatal depression, like your chest will be tight, anxiety. So I remember that feeling, and like something in your throat, like a heavy feeling in your throat. I remember getting that during that time, and just being tired, you know, just things like that.
And it doesn't help, I guess, if like nobody's speaking life into you. And again, we're talking about like the tools that you need. You just became a mom, like you needed her to bring out her toolkit and teach you how to succeed at this or how to survive. And sometimes it's really difficult, like when our parents don't show up for us like that and don't teach us or guide us. And instead, like, you know, they're just imposing their own judgments or their own thoughts onto us, and they're not necessarily positive. How did you get through it?
To be honest, I actually don't know. I had to be mentally strong. So after a while, I just picked myself up. And I just started being positive, and I just said, look, I need to do this because I've got a child now. There's another human being involved. So I didn't have no counseling, no therapy, and I couldn't really confide in people. I didn't trust people at that point anymore. I was betrayed. I've been betrayed by family members before then. So I didn't know who to trust. And my mum is the type of person, she's always been strict and not understanding. She only sees things through one perspective. So even if I had told her, like, I'm feeling like this, which I think on a few occasions, I told her some of my opinions, and it was always pushed down. Like, I was always pushed down and not taken seriously. So I couldn't even tell her, like, how I was feeling inside too much. So I just had to be strong for myself and pull myself together. And I just did it on my own. I don't know how I did it. Like,
well, I think if you felt alone throughout most of your life, then it's easier to just get on with it and deal with it the way that you best know how. A lot of people like ask me like, oh, how did you, different experiences that I've had or whatever, how did you do that? How did you get through that? And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you're surprised how strong you can be when that's your only choice. And for us, I guess strength is the only thing we know how to do from a very young age. But I also wanted to know, do you think maybe you had symptoms of depression before you experienced postnatal depression? Or like how did that sense of emotionally feeling alone and isolated and not being able to confide or connect with people, did that ever impact you mentally?
100%. 100%. And it's not until, you know, I got older that I found out about there's childhood depression. Looking back at it now, with the things I went through and how I was feeling, I think I was depressed a lot younger than, I'm saying, oh, postnatal depression now. But I think before that, I even think from when my parents divorced and my dad left the house, I was very stressed. I think it affected me a lot. I think I was very stressed. The fact that he wasn't there to take me out and buy me the things that I wanted, to spoil me, that was heartbreaking. Not being able to see him when I wanted to see him.
And that's your first experience of heartbreak, innit?
Yes, that was my first experience.
I was watching a lecture this morning, and they was talking about depression and anxiety. He was a doctor, and he asked the doctor about the difference between depression and anxiety showing up in adults and in children. And what I really took away from what she was saying is the fact that when children are going through depression, the patterns are not as consistent. So it can show up as attitude or bad behavior, and then 1 minute they don't want to shower, don't want to brush their teeth, don't want to get out of bed. The patterns are very inconsistent to be able to spot in children. It's a lot harder to spot it in children. And I think that's why, because it's also one of the first challenges that they say we'll have as daddyless daughters, is a deep depression, a deep sense of anxiety. But it's very rarely spotted, and very rarely identified, that the core of it is the fact that, we feel neglected or abandoned in one shape or the other. So after you've had your first child, and at what point did you come out of postnatal depression?
Looking back at it, I think the moment, I had a wake-up call, so a few months after, as I was getting more strength, because, I was young and I was petite. I did it gas, I didn't get epidural, it was a natural birth, so I had it taken a lot of...
on your body,
on my body, and I was weak. So not just emotionally weak, I was physically weak as well. So as I was getting back to myself, eating properly now, getting a bit more sleep, and the child is getting older, less demand from the child, I was getting strong again. And that is how I was picking myself up. And that's the point where the transformation, where I thought, okay, this is it. I need to drop all the negative people out of my life, negative friends, negative family, and just do what is good for me and my son.
And then is that where the reinvention, the recreation starts?
Yeah.
I love that. That's my favourite part of the journey. So how did that start?
So that, as I said, okay, I have to do what's right for my son. So I went back to uni. And at this point, my mum, because she really wanted me to go, that was just one of her main things. And even, to be honest, at that point, I didn't really see the use of, I didn't think everyone that goes to uni I didn't think, because I don't know, for her, it's like everyone that goes to uni, they're the only ones that are successful. For me, I wasn't seeing that, because I was mixing with people in the streets, and I had seen other people making good money that didn't go to uni. So for me, that wasn't, but I just wanted to make her happy, so she gets off my back, and I'll stop being the disappointment child, because I was labelled not just by my mum, but many other people, even her friends and family, because when I would rebel and she would go and tell my business to the whole world, they will call me like I'm troubled, I'm this, I'm that. So I just wanted to prove as well to them that I can actually make something of myself. And, and just, I also wanted her off my back, because all the time, comparing me to her friends' children and things. So I thought, all right, let me just I'll just do this. I'm happy, I'm grateful that I chose the degree that I like, and that's for me, and which I'm using now in my daily life. I'm happy, but I think I would have had some form of resent towards her if I had chose a degree she wanted me to choose. So I'm happy I was able to, stand up for myself at that point.
Yeah.
So I went back to uni and finally, did it. Even though, having a child is not easy.
Of course.
Because she was happy that I was going back to uni, she agreed to help me with my child, to look after my child. So that was good. So she helped me. In the beginning though, because like I said, in the beginning, when I went back to uni, it wasn't solely for me. That was not my passion. So I was still a bit going to parties and wasting student loan on designers.
Yeah.
I still hadn't grasped the importance of going to uni at that point. So I was, in the first bit, I wasn't serious. After a while though, as I got older, because, if my mum's looking after my child, I've got more free time.
Yeah.
I've got more free time to do stuff, to go to parties and do stuff. So it was like maybe a year after I had him. And then I started to wake up that this is, you know. So I just thought, okay, yeah. And then I started doing more research into the degree that I was doing. And then I thought, I actually like this.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I started to get drawn to it, and I started seeing what I could do with myself once I've achieved a degree and stuff. So I started to be serious, drop all the negative friends, drop all the toxic family, and I just blocked everyone out. Like, I didn't care what people were saying about me. I didn't care anymore. Like, I just had to be strong, and then that was the turning point. I finally graduated.
Yeah.
And I got a good grade, and then I went into jobs and stuff, yeah.
Throughout all these experiences, like your mum's obviously, she's very present. She's there. Whether it's negative or positive, she was very present. As you got older, you know, and you started to act out in different ways from 14, 15, you said, going on into your early adult years. How did the inconsistency of the relationship with your dad, like all the contacts and you know, the system getting involved or whatever, how did that impact the relationship that you and him went on to have? Like, was he present during all these different experiences that you had later on?
Yes. Because at that, when as soon as I couldn't wait to turn 16.
Yeah.
So as soon as I turned 16, I was like I was free. So I could go to him at any point. Even when I was in college, actually, I think I used to sleep in his house on weekend before I had even got before the council assisted me with accommodation. So he was present. He was present, but it's different because yes, you're present in my late teenage years, but for the childhood it was on and off. So,
and how do you repair that, right? Like, when neither of you are to blame. I feel like that's something I still struggle with my siblings, for example, now, because we all got split up and we all grew in different places, areas, under different circumstances. And it's none of our faults, really and truly. But like, how do you repair that? Have you repaired that? Have you done the work?
In terms of repairing, my dad is very proud. I think it's because of what he's been through. Not just with the whole child custody battle. Before that, his childhood. He was born here in West London, but his parents gave him to a white foster family in Eastbourne for some time. His parents were Nigerian, so they flew. So after they had given him to the white foster family, they had flown back. It was just a bit, you know. So my dad is he's very quiet and just keeps he keeps everything in.
So he knows abandonment. He knows what that feels like. And that makes sense as to why he fought so hard. Because it can go two ways on the spectrum. Do you get what I mean? Either if you've been abandoned, you repeat those experiences and you leave people before you get left, or you fight hard for what's yours. And he did that. So that explains a lot.
Well, I guess that's why he made sure, because even to this day, he's like, look, he always says it. He said, I'm just happy I fought for you. He said, I'm happy that I went to court to see you guys. He says it. And he always keeps records of stuff. So it was very hard for my mum to tarnish him to me because there's records. Back then, he would keep receipts of stuff he bought. Wow. There's pictures. 99.9% of our childhood pictures that, you know, they're from him. Pictures and videos. So I see all these things. So in terms of repairing, he repaired it, but our relationship got repaired, but not us sitting down verbally talking, going in depth about, you know, it wasn't that. It was just him showing me evidence and just explaining why he took her to court and explaining it, but it's never in depth. I didn't really need that much explanation from him because I could see he wasn't really too much in the wrong. You know, there might have been certain things. I think he did try to attack my mum physically my mum came to there was a contact and she was with her partner. And I think him and the partner, I don't even remember what happened really. I was young. So I'm not saying my dad is perfect. You know, I'm not saying he's perfect. There were some things he did wrong. And those things we've spoken about. I did ask him, why did you do certain things? You know? So it has been repaired, and he's a good granddad to my children. So I think it's been repaired.
And that's what we can ask for, innit? That's dirty water. Like, and it seems like you guys have got to a place in your lives where your kids are not going to be a product of all these experiences. They're going to have a whole different understanding of what it means to be in a healthy relationship and to feel like your needs are being met and to feel loved and encouraged, you know. What would be debating like who should your message be to? Like, I feel like I would like your last words to maybe be to parents who are separating. Like, what do you think are the solutions, or what is your message to parents that can't? There's been no abuse. There's just they've outgrown each other. You know, there's just been conflict or whatever, and they're struggling to figure out how they're going to co-parent. You as a product of that type of situation. Not that it defines you, because it doesn't define you at all, and that's not what I'm implying. But what would be your words of encouragement or advice to that type of setting?
In that type of, what I would say to the parents is they need to always think about the children first. If there is abuse, don't get me wrong, because there was, remember, there's abuses in different forms. There's emotional abuse, and they did argue, and I think on one or two there might have been physical altercation.
Okay.
Now, whether but it wasn't so severe that my brother and I were at risk. We weren't at risk by my dad. Like, he didn't abuse us. There was no harm like that. So my message would be, unless the father of the children or child is putting the children at risk, don't stop them from seeing the child. Children need both a mother and a father figure, you know? So it's very important for a father to be in their daughter's life. That's what I've learned. And me, myself, as a mum, I would not stop the father from seeing the children unless my children and I were at risk. And it's not just about if the father can provide financially, because a lot of men out there, they don't know how to do these things. They don't know how to support themselves. They're going through things as well. They need support and they need help. They're often overlooked at. So I think they should get the right support. Get help. Speak out. And for fathers who are there going around complaining that the mother of their children are not letting them, there are things you could do.
Yeah.
No man could come and tell me that, oh, you're not letting me see the child, or I can't see my child, or something. You can't come and complain, because I know my dad went to court. My dad went to court to try and see us. So that means you yourself, if you really want to see your child, you can take the mother of your child to court.
Yeah.
It's not like America where the court fees are outrageous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for unemployed dads, there's legal aid. There is legal aid for custody, but I'm not saying take the mum to court for divorce. I'm saying in order for you to see your child, you can ask for custody, and you don't have to ask for full custody. You could just say that you want to see them maybe every other weekend, you know? You can get an intermediary between you two.
I would also like to say there is an organisation called Fathers' Rights Matter. They're advocates, and they really do support men who are going through custody battles, both emotionally and legally, which I think is phenomenal. They do a lot of amazing work. And if you are experiencing a situation like this, please find a way to reach out to that organisation or an organisation that's similar. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and your energy. I really hope that, I said it to you earlier, like, even if no parents don't take away anything from this conversation, I hope you know, and I know myself, that there's like more than 1,000 16-year-old girls that are out there right now reliving our experiences. And I hope they're able to take something positive away from this conversation, that, you know, no matter what you see, what you've witnessed, and what you have to go through at a young age, and that living in that survival state of mind, you know, you can come out of it the other end and have 3 beautiful, healthy children like yourself, and a degree and a thriving career. And tell us a bit more about your charity, your girls project and stuff like that as well, because I think that's important work that we need to highlight.
Yeah, so I have a charity called Elevate Her UK, and we use our lived experiences to support young girls. So from the age of, well, it's under 25, but we mostly have from 15 to 25. We do mentoring, one-to-one mentoring sessions. We do group mentoring sessions. We do empowerment workshops, outreach. We provide support to girls that went through stuff that I went through, you know, teenage pregnancy, witnessing domestic abuse, or even going through domestic abuse. Just different things, homelessness, we support them. We go to schools and we also talk to them, you know, mentor them on current issues that's going on today in society, like youth safety. And with our empowerment workshops, we bring a skilled facilitator to engage with them and teach them skills like hair and beauty, things that the young girls are interested in.
Yeah.
Boxing, self-defense, you know, just different things like that, really.
Okay. So where can they find Elevate Her UK?
Yeah, so we have Instagram, elevate.her.uk. We have a website, www.elevateheruk.org. And all our information is there. They can find us.
Okay. Well, girls, if you need any type of support like this, or you just want a safe place to feel like you belong, and you're not the only one going through the type of experiences that you are, make sure that you do reach out to Elevate Her UK or Daddyless Daughters, and we can definitely put you in contact with Ebony. Thank you for joining me, honey. And
Thank you.
I hope that we can do a lot of work together moving forward as well. I really respect your journey, and I really respect the way that you've turned it around, and now you're doing amazing things like me in your community.
Thank you so much. I'm proud of you too, and I love your
sis.
movement as well.
Thank you.
So I had to come. I had to.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Like, we even went to the brothel once. Yeah. I even Facebook stalked his family, not stalked, but found them, and was trying to like get it, because I felt like if he's not wanting to know me, maybe if I go through his family, they'll embarrass him into talking to me or something.
Yeah.
My real dad, my biological dad, basically doesn't want anything to do with me. I was disowned before I was even born.